Hey guys, and welcome back to Let's Play Rollercoaster Tycoon 3. I know I haven't actually made a video of this series in a long time, and I've actually not recorded a video of this series in a longer time than it seems on YouTube. It's been way over a month, and I know this is most likely something which I've already referred to in comments, but never really very clearly explained in a video, which is basically I don't want to work on this park if I just don't feel like it, and if I just don't have any inspiration. It doesn't necessarily mean that I am bored with Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 as a game. Hell, I've played plenty of Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 lately. I just felt very much stuck on this park, and I wanted to not do what I did with Rose Gardens, where I really felt like I had to make videos of it, and in the end I'm actually not happy with that park. Hence why, almost a year after it's pretty much done, there still isn't a final video of Rose Gardens, and I don't know if there ever will be one. And I just want to make sure that I do still keep this entire park on track, and I'm just happy about whatever I build. So whenever I don't really just feel like playing the game, just don't have the inspiration for it, or not in the mood for it, I just don't work on this park. But yeah, I did do some other stuff, and there's definitely some projects that you'll see in the future. But what I should probably say about this Let's Play park is that I do want to get back into the full swing of things, and what I feel sort of halted me was coming to finalize the English area of the park, which is something that I sort of didn't really look forward to doing. And another issue is the dark ride, which I just don't have experience for, so I'm really just procrastinating that out of the good reason that I just don't have enough dark ride experience. Just a limited amount of rides that I've never even released because I wasn't happy about them, so that's something which I do want to work on later on, and for now I'll just leave it behind and work on the next area. And some small things. I did want to change a couple of things in the English area as well, since I did receive some comments, and looking back at the area, really felt that there were some things I wanted to change. One of them was that the queue line was pretty much non-existent outside of the building, and there were many people who actually gave me the tip to go for a more Revenge of the Mummy style approach, where you sort of have the queue swinging back and forth in front of the entrance of the building, and I felt like that was a really cool thing to try. To still have that red carpet in there though, so I might keep that just for the ornamental sake of it, but I might change that in the future. But yeah, the queue should now be a little bit nicer. Also, I wanted to open up the area in front of the station building, in front of the dark ride entrance building, just so it's a little bit more clear to see. So remove that enormous planter and replaced it with some smaller planters, and in sometime later in this episode I'll also be adding some very small planters with some flowers in them, just to, I guess, spice up the area a little bit, but also just make the entire English area feel less depressing, which is something I'll get to later on in this episode as well. But first I should probably explain what the hell is going on over here. This is something which I normally don't really want to get into when it comes to my videos, and I don't really want to record since it's such a weird thing, but here's just a bit of planning the park. That is not necessarily to say that I just don't like to show it to people. It's just something which isn't really too much part of the progress of a park and the building, but I just sort of did it in between building stuff over here. And I figured it's also quite important because this will really shape how the park is gonna end up looking in the end. Well, basically I had the entire general idea of what I wanted to have the park layout be like in my head for all this time, and really felt like I needed to also just jot it down on the park file and make sure that I got everything to look like the way I wanted it, and to look at my plans again and my ideas and decide whether I actually wanted to do it like that. So a bit of explanation about what's actually going on with all these terraforming things. The squares with the bricks around them are, well, quite obviously planned buildings, and every little zone has their own pre-proposed color. So for instance, this very green yellowish grass is going to be Germany, and the very dark reddish brown is going to be Austria, and that's how that's going to work. The very light brown are going to be the paths, and the grey is going to be some sort of a mountain shape with rocks, where I do want to have a most likely mine train in the future. At least that's what I've been planning for that area all this time. That's the general overall plan for that area. In terms of theme, I want to eventually Oh god, I think actually in the real-time footage I said that I wouldn't say too much about the theme, but about the theme, it's gonna be a German theme around this area, but German is a very, very wide theme. There are many different variations within that, in which I would like to play a bit with different styles as well, but in general I do want to follow a Bavarian type architecture, partly because I like the style, but also because you see some stucco elements in there, which very neatly fits, I think, with the mock Tudor woodwork that you see in England, which I have in the English area, but also the woodwork which you see in Austria. So I feel like the Bavarian's type of building can be the best sort of transition from England to Austria and fit within both areas, and hopefully the synergy between the German and the Austrian buildings will be good in the end as well. But yeah, the plan is I have that mountain over there in the corner. There is that green space in between the mountain and the paths where I do want to have a small river running, just because I figured it would look cool, and that's pretty much the plan. No entire plan as of yet of how the coaster is gonna run or what type of extra flat ride I'm gonna add, but that's the general sort of plan with which I want to attack the area. Thing is, I am not too big of a fan of planning, but it's just something which, especially in retrospect of the areas which I have right now, is something that I really feel like I need to do. It's kind of like that, too much structure is not good for you versus too less structure is also not good for you. Like, in a way, I wanna plan because I felt like in hindsight the English area and the Spanish area aren't planned enough, so they sort of turn into a chaos. But then again, I also don't want to restrict myself too much to a pre-given plan, and it's always more fun and more creative to just step out of that and do whatever you want to do. So yeah, it's just a general sort of vague plan, but it doesn't entirely resemble what I'm gonna do 100% in the end, but it is something that I generally want to follow just to make sure that before I start building things, I think all the dimensions and the entire idea behind the area is right. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire planning aspect. I just wanted to add a couple of details to the Parliament slash City Hall building over here, since I felt it was one of the reasons why I felt the building was so grey and dull and depressing is because it even though it had so many details, they were all in the same color, so I wanted to add a bit more contrast in there and actually add the white pillars but also some dark brown accents. And this is actually very funny. Another thing which I figured in the end sort of made England look so depressing. This is something that I talked about in one of the earlier episodes, where I said that I felt like the English area was looking so depressing and I should add more foliage to it, but then again I already have so much foliage and what can I do, and England is depressing anyway, and then I got some angry Englishmen. But in the end, what I really felt was one of the key issues over there actually was that my brightness was turned down all the way to very low. So brightness is a bit higher right now, and with that I think it actually already looks much more alive and much more vibrant, which really helps. And there will be also a bit more foliage, like obviously some of the poplars over there and the flowers also help to make the area look a little less dull and rainy and grey and English in general. Anyway, that's about the depressing look of the English area, which should be a little bit better by now, but something I still do want to change in the future, because obviously the path elements like lamps, benches, planters aren't completely done in the English area. Not to mention that I still want to have some of those things that really make an area feel alive, like small stalls and vendor carts and signs and stuff like that. Still something that I want to add. Anyway, at this point in the video, I should have long started talking about these two towers over here, which I haven't done so far. I'll explain a bit in the real-time part about it as well. But basically, since this is right on the border between the English and the German area, I wanted to make sure to have some sort of good transition, just like the function was of the bridge between the Netherlands and Spain in this case, and the railroad crossing between the Netherlands and England. But the issue over here, I felt, was that if I didn't put something that sort of blocked the view in between England and Germany, you could see the mountain from England, which would look awfully off and alpine. And on the other hand, you could see the English coaster and all the English gardens from Germany, which would also be weird. So I figured the best sort of attack would be to just put a building as a sort of transition between both areas, and also in a way block the view from one area to the other without being too obviously a blockade of blocking the view, and really felt that a castle was the best way to go about doing so, and especially an English castle, since here's the thing, and this is something that I'll return to in the real-time part as well, but English castles do typically not have fancy spires in a way that many German or Alpine castles would have that, but much more decorated with battlements, and I really felt like I could have towers with battlements realistically in a German town, but you can't have towers with many decorations and a real fantasy theme to it in an English town, so it really felt like the best choice to get a castle wall over here that resembles the English castles rather than the German castles, and eventually just put some birches on the German side to make sure that you can see that there's a castle wall there with some towers, but you can't actually see that it's completely an English castle wall. And I'm actually quite happy about how this turned out. What's very surprising to me actually is that this was using some of the sets which I am by far most familiar of all of the custom scenery sets out there, being Ralphie's Antique World, which I've used for such a long time and so much, and also Ralphie's Medieval, and a number of other sets for the accents, of course. And even though those are two sets which I've used so commonly, I've never actually used them together, but I only now just realized how well they actually work for an English castle, and I might just want to randomly try building an English castle, because it was actually a lot of fun. That said, this won't be the only bit of building for this gate over here. Primarily on the right side, next to the railroad over there, I do think I want to extend this building a bit. I just wanted to make sure that I got this sort of portal into the other zone right over here, because that meant that once I actually had this transition done, I could start actually working on the German area, which is something that I really feel like I want to do, and something which I should have moved on to so much earlier, but only now really only got to. And that's pretty much the idea behind this. There's not even any major inspiration for this, just English castles in general, but I did want to have a bit of a decoration underneath this tower, just to make sure it wasn't all just cold and undetailed stone towers, but also have a bit of that woodwork and ironwork as an ornamental arch underneath it. It's really just a bit of creative freedom, I suppose, I took there, because it's not something that you would realistically see, but just something which I figured would look pretty good. I'm also pretty sure I forgot a window on the backside over there. Yep. Yeah, I'll go back to that in the future. There's a number of things I still want to add to this, like eventually definitely want to make the foliage on the sides move toward the castle towers a bit more to make sure they blend into the environment a bit more, and perhaps even add some like overgrowth to it, like some vines just creeping up the walls. That would be really cool. But then again, this is all still quite a big work in progress. I just wanted to make sure that I got this in here as sort of a step forward and closing the chapter of England and actually moving on for a change and actually getting going here again. And that's the entire idea behind this, which also means that some of the detailing, definitely not going too much into detail there, just spammed a couple of boxes and crates just to make sure that I got that in there, but I'll definitely be adding more ornaments around this entire area in general. Anyway, that's it for the time-lapse part for today. I'll jump to a small real-time part now, so I'll pass it over to my past self. Alright, so I just recorded one major section over here without actually recording, and also it's pretty late at night, so I might sound a bit sleepy and tired at the moment. But yeah, here's the current state of things. Didn't really add too much over here, just wanted to make sure I got some sort of transition going, because the main issue, as I've probably by now also said in the commentary over the time-lapse, is that I was really stuck for a couple of weeks over here and just wanted to transition into the Alpine area, and figured the best way to do that was with a simple set of towers. I didn't want to just leave it empty, since you would be clearly able to see the other buildings on the other side, and it wouldn't be too smooth of a transition, I figured, especially given how not so much space there is over here. And so these towers are sort of, I feel like, an in-between solution, And the thing is, I didn't want to have towers with fancy spires or colorful materials, since I really wanted to make sure that from the English area it looked like a decently English castle. And traditionally, English castles have more of this type of material used, but also don't actually have spires with fancy roofs and decorations, but rather battlements. And I figured going with the English style and dressing it up that way could prove as a good sort of facade and transition from the English area into the Alpine area, but the reverse should also be fine with some buildings over here and stuff like that. And that's basically what the function of this pretty simple building is. I do still want to work on this area a bit, add some path elements and make it feel a bit more alive than it currently does. And of course this is something where I'm gonna want to add a bit of castle-y stuff to this thing. Anyway, in the next episode / next episodes, and I don't know why I can't use the advanced camera all of a sudden, I'm gonna want to work on the Alpine area because that's something I really kind of want to do, and I have some plans and ideas on how I'm gonna do that exactly, but you'll see that eventually. I won't bore you with that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this episode, and see you guys later.